Good day, folks. My apologies. We just got interrupted. Yes, it's James here at ProPix TV in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Welcome to another episode. Tonight we are going to talk about various subjects, and we will touch on, of course, the articles of impeachment against Donald Trump. We'll look into the 7 articles and define what those are. In addition, of course, we're going to take a look at the election results and what that means for Canada moving forward. We will take a look at the current industry for film and television production in Canada and why it may take another year or two for it to return to any level of significance in comparison to where it was pre-pandemic. So again, we're seeing a large reduction in the amount of spending and the number of productions going on within Canada, and we'll touch on that tonight. With that also, of course, we will give you an update on the the Lapu Lapu Day, my apologies, celebration in Vancouver, where a vehicle was driven into the crowd, causing death and injuries to many. So those are the subjects that we will cover tonight. I would like to start the show, though, with a special shout out and thank you to the folks over at the BC Cancer Agency in Vancouver. Tonight, I am not wearing a tie because I did have a minor procedure today in my throat where they did some removal. And so I just wanted to send a special thank you to the team over there on the second floor at the surgical daycare unit. Thank you very much for your care and the smiles and laughs that I had in a situation where, you know, I was there for a procedure. I wasn't there for entertainment, but you guys were amazing. Thank you very much. And for all of you out there, don't forget that cancer is a very big problem today. So don't forget that when you are looking at your contributions to different charitable organizations, your local cancer agency could always use your help. And so let's move along though, folks. Let's start with a quick overview of the current headlines, both here and abroad. Now, of course, we know that there are a lot of issues going on facing our world today, and we're going to bring you the top stories making headlines on this Wednesday, April the 30th. We are currently at 12:36 a.m. Pacific time here in Vancouver, British Columbia. Now, our top story tonight, of course, Canada has a new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, which is new but isn't new. Of course, he stepped in on the resignation of Justin Trudeau. However, he has been elected. This is not, though, a majority government. He won a minority government. And where that's going to lead, we'll have to watch. There are already people online calling out for another general election, but I think that that could backfire. And I think that also, in addition to that, I believe that a lot of the people calling out are conservative supporters who feel that Pierre Poilievre should have been elected. And the funny thing about that is that Pierre Poilievre did not even win his own riding. So that is an important note as well. Now, Jagmeet Singh of the NDP party did not win in his riding either. And that's important because he actually stepped down, which is traditionally what you will see happen when a certain party leader does not win their riding or their electoral district. They step aside and allow for new leadership to take the helm. This is not the case with Pierre Poilievre. Of course, he doesn't want to step down or step aside. He is a career politician, and that's all he knows. He is going to, I think, lead the charge to see this minority government face a non-confidence vote either in the near future or over the next year, but I think he'll probably be leading a call for it even sooner. This is going to be a real issue when it comes to dealing with the United States on the tariff front, as well as other geopolitical issues that are facing the world today, whether that is the Middle East, whether that is Europe and Ukraine, or where else that might lie. So again, it's going to be an interesting time to see how that works. But again, of course, you're looking at... sorry, I've got two cats in the office tonight in the studio, and they are not getting along. So, in any event, in the 2025 election, of course, the Liberal Party was riding a wave of sentiment that that people are upset with the Trump government down south and how that's having an impact on Canada. Now, it's unclear as to where things will lead at this time, but we'll have to watch and see, as I said. Now, meanwhile, also, the NDP leader Jagmeet Singh did do the right thing, I believe, in stepping down from the party's disappointing results, really contributing to that. But again, some of the ridings were razor-thin margins, so it is really showing how divided the nation is at this time. We'll have more of what this means for Canada a bit later in the broadcast in more detail, but at this time, I would like to send a special thank you as well to Jagmeet Singh and his team for all that he has accomplished in his political career, for all that he has accomplished on behalf of Canadians, whether that is, reducing or eliminating the cost of life-saving and preserving medications and prescriptions for those in need, as well, of course, to the dental program that has been slowly rolling out across the nation for, again, those of lower income to increase access to dental care for all. So again, he did have some major impacts on Canada and on Canadians as a whole. And for that, every Canadian should be grateful, no matter what party line that you ride or that you support. Of course, you cannot go without acknowledging the contributions that he made, whether or not you agree with the rest of the policies or not. Now, let's turn to Europe, folks. Again, it is, massive power outages in Spain and Portugal that brought things to a standstill late Monday, grounding airplanes, halting public transport, and forcing hospitals to suspend routine operations. Power is slowly returning to parts of the Iberian Peninsula, but the outage left millions trapped, unable to pay for services, and feeling, well, powerless. Authorities are still investigating the cause, but this event raises questions about the resilience and reliance on critical infrastructure in the region. Now back to the U.S. Donald Trump has marked his 100th day in office with a rally in Warren, Michigan. But polls show his approval ratings are slipping. According to CNBC, voters are losing confidence in his handling of immigration, which was, of course, a key campaign promise. Meanwhile, a coalition of unions, nonprofits, and local governments has filed a lawsuit against President Trump, Elon Musk, and nearly 24 agency heads to block proposed mass layoffs in the federal government. And in a surprising twist, posts on X are buzzing about 7 articles of impeachment reportedly being drafted against the president. And we'll be bringing you a bit more on that in the moments ahead. Once we finish going around the headlines, we'll go into those in more detail. In international news again, 4 pro-democracy activists in Hong Kong, part of the so-called Hong Kong 47, were convicted today for their role in an unofficial primary poll back in 2020. The poll, which drew over 600,000 participants, was deemed a threat by authorities. This latest move underscores the ongoing tensions over democratic freedoms within that region. Closer to home, we have an update on the tragic car attack at Vancouver's Lapu Lapu Festival. Authorities are still investigating the motive behind the incident, which left several injured and 11 people deceased. Community leaders are calling for unity and increased security at public events. Our thoughts are with those affected, and again, we'll bring you more information on that shortly. Now, and as we go forward, before we move on to more detail in these stories in the world of sports, let's take a look during Game 4 of the NHL playoffs between Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers. A fly stole the show by landing on ESPN's camera lens. Fans took to X joking about the unexpected guest, with commentator Sean McDonough adding some humor to that moment. Gotta love those unscripted bits, right? I've been there. The NBA playoffs are heating up with close games in the Knicks Pistons and Celtics Magic series. Check ESPN for the latest scores and updates on your team in the playoff series. Now, that's all for the top headlines. We are going to go more in depth now into several of the stories that are of importance and have an impact on our community as well as around the world. Now, as that says, we can take a look at other topics and stories. You're welcome to post in the comments section if you have something that you would like to discuss in terms of today's events or any other topics, as this is your show. I'm just here to moderate and talk you through it, but again, here for discussions with you to enjoy the program. Once again, this is James Cousineau at the ProPix TV studios in Vancouver, British Columbia. As we move forward with tonight's show, let's take a look at more details on the attack in Vancouver at the Lapu Lapu Festival. Now, that happened on April the 26th during a Filipino community block party celebrating Lapu Lapu Day. The latest are that casualties and injury count, 11 people aged 5 to 65 years old, with 9 of the victims being female, including a 5-year-old girl. Dozens more were injured, with 7 in critical condition and 3 with serious injuries as of April the 28th reports. Most of the victims were from Metro Vancouver, with one victim's residence still unidentified. So they are working to find out where that individual was from and to get more information there. As for the suspect, Kai G. Adam Lowe, a 30-year-old Vancouver resident, was charged with 8 counts of second-degree murder, with further charges anticipated as victim identification continues. Again, to lay the charges, they do look to have the victims identified, so they can include that in the details that they forward to the Crown. The Crown then moves forward with laying of the charges. So again, that is looking at that. A very strong likelihood of many more charges coming down the pipe against Mr. Lowe. Now, Lowe has a history of mental health-related interactions with Vancouver police and healthcare professionals, but authorities have ruled out terrorism as a motive. He was arrested at the scene by festival goers and detained until the police were able to make a formal arrest. He was in court on April the 27th, where he was ordered to remain in custody, and at that time he did not enter a plea of guilty or not guilty in either direction. Now, the attack took place approximately 4 p.m. At East 41st Avenue and Fraser Street, when Lowe allegedly drove a black Audi SUV through a pedestrian only area of the festival, which had drawn up to 100,000 attendees. It is also worth noting that NDP federal candidate Jagmeet Singh was there moments before this event happened, and he had left shortly before. He, of course, has made his comments since then and was quite emotional about it. Now, witnesses described the vehicle as accelerating suddenly, hitting people and causing chaos, with bodies scattered and some trapped under the food trucks that were lining the street. The SUV was extremely crumpled and damaged in the front end. Some of you may have seen my live reports or my follow-up reports from the location on the night of the incident and overnight into the early mornings. The Vancouver Police Department interim chief Steve Rye called it the darkest day in the city's history. A 24-hour assistance center was set up at the Douglas Park Community Center and transitioning to a VPD mobile command center by April the 29th. The Vancouver Police Department is seeking videos and tips from the public to aid in the investigation, with over 100 officers involved in the investigation at this time. Now, the victim services are available through Filipino BC and the Philippine Consulate General. Let's also keep in mind that although this was a Filipino event in Vancouver, Vancouver is a very, very large melting pot of different nationalities, of different groups. So again, if you know someone who was there, number one, I assure you that there are many resources for everyone available if you need to talk to someone. There's nothing wrong with reaching out to get help. If you are in need of assistance, if you are feeling the impacts emotionally and otherwise from this event, at the very least, you can reach out to Victim Services at the Vancouver Police Department, who can put you in touch with a service provider or some type of program to help you. Once again, this is a traumatic event, so if you are feeling the impacts or just feeling out of sorts, by all means, reach out and speak to someone. It is very important for your ongoing healing, and I do speak from experience on that, on how important it is. Now, as we also continue to look at that, as I said, the police are calling out to the public to forward any videos or photos that you may have of the event around that time. Again, even if you don't think about having that vehicle or any pertinent information in your images, it could be that you were doing a selfie or doing a live broadcast, anything like that on social media, where there could be information pertinent to the investigation in the background that you may not have noticed previously. So again, I encourage you to go through your photos and your videos, see if there's anything that could help police and reach out. If you are emotionally feeling that would be too overwhelming to go through your photos and videos as of yet, you can always, without viewing them, just forward them to the Vancouver Police Department for them to look at. Again, it is about getting the most evidence and information to create a clearer picture of what exactly happened as it transpired on that fateful day. Now, officials have, of course, reacted to the events, with Prime Minister Mark Carney canceling campaign events and also visiting the scene. Excuse me for one moment, folks. Let me just fix this here. My apologies, folks. Bear with me one moment as we get back to the other screen there. My apologies for that. So as I was saying, yes, so Mark Carney did make an appearance at the location, laying flowers and speaking to media. So did Premier David Eby, who also was there. Now, Pierre Poilievre did make a statement. However, he was not in British Columbia at the time. And Jagmeet Singh, of course, also showed up, as did other members of the Canadian government, the British Columbia government, and of course the municipal government, with Ken Sim also making an appearance. So the entire city, the entire province and the country is reeling from this event. It was such a tragedy that really needed not happen. But again, it is something that they are looking at for different security and police discussions, different policy discussions that will take into account for all future events. And that will, of course, be something that happens over time here. Now, the Filipino community, as I said, is one of Vancouver's largest immigrant groups that's grieving deeply. Organizers, including Filipino BC, expressed the devastation and discouraged sharing unverified videos. Memorials with flowers and candles have grown at the site. The vigils have been held, including at St. Mary the Virgin South Hill Church. There will be more events coming up as we continue to mourn the loss of those victims and try to support those who are reeling with injuries and trying to recover. And then, of course, the impacts on those emotionally and mentally that were there, and the community as a whole. So again, it is a big event that's going to take a long time for healing and to come to terms with, all of which has happened. Now, the festival did lack heavy vehicle barriers or dedicated police presence due to a prior risk assessment that deemed them unnecessary, and that is prompting scrutiny at this time. Mayor Ken Sim and Chief Rai emphasized addressing mental health issues as a root cause, with calls for mandatory care reforms. The incident has sparked a review of event safety measures. And again, as I said, that will be something that continues on, and we'll probably see a big change in how events are handled for security, safety, and traffic and pedestrian flow. So once again, we'll keep you updated as different things progress on that event and as we get more information as we move forward. Now, as of April the 29th, of course, the Vancouver Police Department continues to investigate with a press conference live streamed that provided some updates, but no motive has yet been confirmed, and victim identification is ongoing, with some families sharing details, such as the loss of a father, mother, and 5-year-old daughter. So again, there's a lot of information online. Once again, I would like to emphasize the importance of verification if you are giving any contributions to GoFundMe accounts or other fundraising events. Be careful, because unfortunately there are unscrupulous actors out there who will create fraudulent accounts to try and make money off of this tragic event. So if you are looking for some of those verified different fundraisers, I encourage you to check out the Georgia Straight newspaper's website. They do have some links there that they have verified, and that's at straight.com. So again, www.straight.com. That's the Georgia Straight. They have verified some of the GoFundMe accounts to make sure that they are legitimate at that point. And so once again, we will keep you updated on this important story and how Vancouver continues to move forward with the recovery as a community. Now, moving on, let's take a look at the Michigan Democrat Representative Sri Thanedar. He has introduced 7 articles of impeachment against President Donald Trump, accusing him of sweeping abuse of power, flagrant violations of the Constitution, and acts of tyranny that undermine the American democracy and threaten the rule of law. Below, we are going to take a look at some of those points and his resolution based on available information. Now, here we go. Obstruction of justice and abuse of executive power. In more detail, essentially accuses Trump of denying due process, engaging in unlawful deportations, defying court orders, and misusing the Department of Justice. A key example is Trump's refusal to comply with a unanimous 9-0 Supreme Court ruling to facilitate the return of Kilmer Abrego Garcia, a Maryland man wrongfully deported to El Salvador, violating constitutional checks and balances. So again, very serious allegation. Moving on to point 2, or Article 2, is the usurpation of the appropriations power. Now, that charges that Trump was undermining Congress's constitutional authority over the federal spending by impounding funds and attempting to dismantle agencies like the Department of Education, USAID, and FEMA without congressional approval. And that's subverting the separation of powers. So again, very serious accusations against Donald Trump in that article of impeachment. Now let's take a look even further as we look at the abuse of trade powers and, of course, international aggression. That alleges that Trump abused executive authority by imposing tariffs and engaging in actions that destabilize international relations, overstepping constitutional limits on presidential trade powers. Very serious, folks. Violation of the First Amendment rights accuses Trump of retaliating against protected speech, targeting lawyers and journalists, thereby undermining constitutional protections for free expression. Again, something that we have heard over and over, that of course Donald Trump and Levitt, which I call bargain basement Barbie, they argue that point, they dispel that point, they basically sit there and do nothing but lie to the American public and to the world as a whole. Now, the next point of interest here in the articles of impeachment is the creation of an unlawful office. Now, that claims that Trump's establishment of the Department of Government Efficiency, also known as DOGE, led by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, is unconstitutional as it lacks congressional authorization and seeks to eliminate funds and government jobs without legislative approval. Now, we do know that Vivek has left that position, but he still undoubtedly has his fingers in the pie, as we say. Now, let's take a look at another serious charge of bribery and corruption. I know, so, a big shocker when it comes to Donald Trump, right? But that alleges that he has used his office for personal gain and political advantage, engaging in corrupt practices tied to his personal wealth and the consolidation of power. Very serious accusations, and you could even put in there the allegations of the empowerment and enrichment of the Trump organization and the Trump family, extending beyond Donald Trump directly. Now, the final part of the article of impeachment, point number 7, or article number 7, says that that charges Trump with seeking to consolidate unchecked power, eroding civil liberties, and defying constitutional limits on presidential authority, posing a direct threat to democratic principles. So again, those are the accusations in that 7-point article of impeachment, or the 7 articles of impeachment. Thanedar again emphasized that these actions, particularly Trump's defiance of the Supreme Court in the Abrego-Garcia case, represent a clear and present danger to democracy. However, with Republicans controlling both the House and the Senate, the impeachment effort is unlikely to advance. Now, the Thanedar insists this is not partisan, but about upholding the rule of law through this process. But critics, including Trump, who called him a lunatic at a Michigan rally, view it as a political stunt. Thanedar faces 2 primary challenges. Former state senator Adam Holyer and state Republican or Representative Donovan McKinney for his 2026 re-election are definitely causing a concern for him. But he again says that this is a nonpartisan action that is required. And personally, I give him kudos for that, because he is standing up to the tyranny and the wannabe dictator Donald J. Trump. So again, I think that more people need to stand up and demand that he follow the rule of law and that he respect the Constitution of the United States. The Constitution, he has no problem hiding behind and citing when it comes to gun laws, and yet when it comes to anything else, it's just kind of at a whim as to whether he respects the Constitution or whether he just disregards it altogether. So again, now, it should also be noted that he has used taxpayer-funded billboards to promote the impeachment effort. So again, we'll have to watch and see how this plays out. Meanwhile, on X, the sentiment is divided. Supporters praise the move for accountability, while critics, on the other hand, and others mock Thanedar, some targeting his Indian origin. These reactions underscore the polarized response to the impeachment bid. But again, is this really such a bad thing to hold Donald Trump to account and to try to block his oligarchy-led, dictatorship attempt that he is moving on? Let's move back to Canada, though. In our next story, we are taking a look at the Canadian film and television industry as it faces some major economic challenges. It's a slowdown and a labor shortage that are impacting the industry from coast to coast to coast, especially being felt in areas of Ontario and British Columbia. Now, of course, we know that Canada's film and television production industry is often dubbed or called Hollywood North, and it's grappling with significant challenges that are reshaping its economic contributions and impacting the livelihoods of thousands of workers. Despite a post-pandemic boom, recent data and industry reports highlight a sector under strain with ripple effects on local economies and the workforce. Now, before I continue on with this story, in full disclosure, of course, not only do I participate in the production of this program and ownership of this ProPix TV, ProPix Canada Media Limited, and True Crime and Justice TV. I'm also a talk show host on another channel, which is Satledge TV. In addition, of course, I'm also an actor, writer, and comedian in the Metro Vancouver area with a membership in the Union of BC Performers. So in disclosure, I just thought I would bring that up. Now, it should also be noted that as I travel the world for different stories, different documentaries and such that I produce, I also spend a lot of time talking to others within the industry in different countries, whether that's in Europe, whether that's in the UK, the US, Canada, wherever I am networking with others. I try to promote British Columbia and Canada as a viable option for location filming and for production all over the world to come here and be a part of the amazing Canadian film and television production industry, and also for commercial productions as well. So that is just to let you know that I do have involvement within the industry, so I just wanted to make sure that was in full disclosure before I continue. Now, post-pandemic, we saw a high that is now receding, and that comes with the Canadian Media Producers Association, also known as the CMPA. And they reported in its Profile 2023 that began April 2022 and March 2023 within that window. The screen-based media production sector contributed $14.05 billion to Canada's GDP. Now, that generated $12.9 billion in production volume and supported nearly 240,000 jobs. This period marked a peak driven by post-COVID catch-up on productions, where Canadian broadcasters commissioned projects to meet regulatory obligations, and foreign, primarily American, productions flocked to Canada to produce content. And again, that contributed a record of $6.85 billion in foreign location shooting. As we move on, the CMPA president and CEO, Reynolds Maston, cautioned that these are figures representing a happy memory rather than the current reality, and that anybody that works within the film industry or television industry in Canada can rest assured that it is slow. It is a real downturn in the industry right now, and a lot of people are struggling. But that is, again, a happy memory, not the current reality when it comes to those figures. The industry is now facing a slowdown exacerbated by the 2023 Hollywood strikes by the Writers Guild of America, or the WGA, and SAG-AFTRA. Now that halted production globally, with the strikes' impact being hugely felt across Canada, particularly in service productions reliant on American investment. The Milken Institute estimated that $5 billion U.S. economic loss across the U.S. production hubs, with Canada's service sector also hit extremely hard by those events. Now, as we look, the economic impact here on a contracting sector is that the CMPA projects that production volumes for the year ending March 31st, 2024 will dip below 2021 pandemic-era levels due to reduced commissioning of Canadian content and the lingering effects of the Hollywood strikes. Moving forward to 2025, it has been an extremely, if not almost a record number of lows in terms of production starts and budgets that have been here in the BC film industry, as well as Canada as a whole. As we look, of course, looking at that report that we just mentioned, domestic production, which drove about 52% of Ontario's $947 million in spending in 2023, is shrinking. And that's due to Canadian broadcasters cutting budgets amid economic pressures that we see. Meanwhile, when it comes to foreign productions, the share has risen to 56% of national activity, highlighting Canada's resilience on the U.S. investment. But again, these numbers are a bit older. When you look at the current state of production across Canada, it is not even close to that when we look at our projections. With the instability of U.S. Canada trade, impacts of different industries, it is a tough one to look at when it looks so bleak within the industry. Some people are actually leaving the film industry in order to find more sustainable livelihood incomes. So again, it is a tough one. Now, the contradiction is particularly concerning for regions like Ontario, where the industry generated just over $3 billion in production spending and 45,891 jobs in 2022, and in British Columbia, where the film and television industry employs 90,000 people, including 40,000 full-time positions. Now, a prolonged downturn threatens the local economies, reducing demand for ancillary services, including hospitality, catering, transportation, and so forth. For example, Toronto's 2022 record of $2.6 billion in direct spending supported 35,000 outside jobs, but recent reports suggest a slowdown is already impacting these figures moving into 2025. As I touched on, the industry's challenges are taking a toll on the workers, from actors to crew members. The 2023 Hollywood strikes disrupted work for many, particularly those in the service of productions, while establishing professionals like the Montreal-based actor David Campbell has reported minimal impact, saying that he was relying on Canadian and French productions in that region. However, when you look at newer entrants like Samuel Bernard, he is struggling to find consistent work during the strike period, but even as we move forward into 2025, actors and industry workers are really struggling right now with the lack of work that's going on. Now, labor shortages were a persistent issue and are compounding the problem. Again, the demand for skilled workers, line producers, camera operators, sound mixers, grips, and production accountants outpaced the supply. Now, looking at the current industry, again, people are looking to leave the industry, so accountants may be going elsewhere. Sound mixers, camera operators, and line producers, again, are looking for alternative work in order to sustain their families and make car payments, house payments, all of that. So it is a tough one. And the unemployment is a growing concern. The Art Directors Guild in the U.S. reported 75% unemployment rate during the strike, but it again is seeing numbers that are definitely not recovering right now as we go into 2025. It is an ugly outlook immediately for the industry. I personally predict that we won't see until mid-2026 a real impactful recovery of the industry. But again, I work to do productions here and continue with that, while at the same time promoting Canada, our industry, and our amazing workforce in British Columbia to the world. So I try to encourage other production companies to look at co-productions in Canada, to bring their budgets here, and also for commercial production, commercials and other film production, even though they may be smaller, can definitely add up in totality to help to boost the industry somewhat. Now, as we know, this also has a direct impact where there is the inconsistent work, and that impacts healthcare benefits. It definitely contributes or impacts the contributions for pensions and so forth. And that is especially true for unionized workers, and younger professionals are seeing their career potential and progression stall. So it is a tough time once again in the film industry in Canada. Now, the rise of streaming services like Netflix and Amazon has reshaped the industry, increasing competition, but also creating challenges. Now, according to Deloitte's Digital Media Trends report, it notes high subscriber churn among young audiences, with 67% of Gen Z and 62% of millennials canceling subscriptions after watching specific content. This volatility, coupled with streaming platforms' shift to ad-supported tiers and reduced content budget, is limiting the opportunity again for Canadian producers. When we look at that, we can also look at the impact of the current economic situation, and that will probably play into even further reductions of budgets and the number of productions going forward. It is, again, a tough time to be in the industry. When we look at the opportunities that may come forward, we see certain things such as the media fund from the industry, in particular the 5% that needs to be spent internally within Canada on domestic production. That comes into play in August of 2025. So again, it probably won't have an immediate benefit to the industry for another 12 to 24 months. But again, that is the 5% credit that needs to come back into development and production within Canada from the streaming service platforms. Very similar to what you see within the television industry as well. Now, when we take a look at the contracting marketplace, there were sustainable careers, and that's becoming increasingly difficult for people looking to enter into the industry, scaring them off as well. The delay in implementing that Online Streaming Act, which I just discussed, is definitely having an impact as well, adding to our production industry woes with the mandated streamers to promote Canadian content, again, not getting that financial contribution starting until August of this year. With that said, of course, despite the challenges, there are signs of resilience. Alberta is expanding its production infrastructure with tax credit increases, positioning itself as an alternative to Vancouver and Toronto. We're seeing the same type of happenings within the province of Manitoba, where Winnipeg is gaining traction with flexible incentives. Industry workers are adapting by exploring new skills or forming support networks and initiatives like Netflix's partnership with General Motors to promote sustainable production practices. But that is signaling a commitment to innovation, but is again not helping us in the short term by any stretch of the imagination. Now, the path forward will require action. Our industry leaders are urging governments to bolster training programs. They are looking to streamline tax incentives and expedite the Online Streaming Act to support domestic production. Without these measures, Canada's film and TV industry risks losing its economic and cultural momentum. And that is a big concern, not only for those of us in the industry, but also for those outside of the industry who rely on the residual spending from the direct jobs that are created, the spending by productions, whether it's buying, construction materials for set development and set construction, the props departments, just so many different industries that spend money out in the local communities. And that, again, is going to have a major impact. In terms of Canada's screen sector, it is facing a big reset now, and the resilience of our workers and the strength of the infrastructure will be critical in ensuring that Hollywood North once again remains and regains its position as a global powerhouse. So again, if you're in the industry, just stay strong. I know it's tough out there, but it will come back over time. But unfortunately, it is very hard to look at it right now. But with that said, I will add a side note to that I am noticing an uptick in the number of startups with productions being listed in areas such as Creative BC, in the Ontario Directors Guild, and others. I'm seeing an uptick in production starts and listings. So hopefully that is an indicator of a tide turning within the film and television production industry. For my viewers out there around the world, remember Vancouver, Toronto, Manitoba, we are all open for productions. We welcome productions from around the globe, and we encourage you to consider producing your next blockbuster or other production here in Canada. Don't forget that if you are a part of co-production treaties, by all means reach out to Canadian production companies. They'd love to hear from you to discuss and explore opportunities to work in co-productions with you around the world. Reach out to Creative BC or other industry programs and organizations. They'd be happy to hear from you. Take care, everyone. That has been another live chat episode with James, coming to you from the ProPix studios here in Vancouver, British Columbia. I encourage you to come back again tomorrow night. We do come to air on TikTok here between usually 11:15 to 12 o'clock a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So it is after I record the show with Angus over in London, England for Salvage TV. After we do that, I come on to this platform and do the live chat. So again, you've been watching Live Chat with James here at ProPix TV in Vancouver, British Columbia. Stay safe out there, folks. Don't forget that you can add your comments to the comment section or send an email directly to propixcanada.com. That's smile@propicscanada.com. Stay safe, everyone. Thank you for tuning in.